Ping, can you please recheck? I've shared again the presentation.
Hello, Michelle. Hello, Michelle. Michelle, I received your email. You're here already. Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Taipei, Taiwan. I'm Lee, the president of the Alliance for Women's Rights and Sustainable Development. On behalf of our organization, I'm very delighted to welcome you all to join our event. At the very beginning, I take the privilege to introduce the host organization, AWRSCD, Alliance for Women's Rights and Sustainable Development, which is a non-government women's organization. The goal of the Alliance is set up an exchanging and cooperation platform for the women's rights and sustainable development. The platform will enable us to promote relevant research, practice, and advocacy in order to reach gender equality and global sustainable development. Today, I'm very pleased to the moderator for this session, implementing CEDAW to end women's poverty and achieve gender equality. This session is organized by AWS, what I just introduced for you, and the Department of Women and Children, Taoyuan City government. And we still have Taoyuan City South District of Taoyuan City. And also we have two international organizations. One is Mashmania, Women's Rights International. I hope my pronunciation is right. Then we still have the Rosario Memorial Trust. Thank you. And it is our honor to have 6 experts including the advocates, experts, and scholars with us to talk about the title implementation CEDAW to end women's rights and achieve gender equality. We know CEDAW articles and general recommendations are based on the elimination of discrimination against women and striving of ending women's poverty in many aspects, such as education, training, health, employment, land, and environment, and so on, which are all related to women's survival and how to stop women's poverty. Now we just start our section to invite our speakers to present for all of you. First of all, I would like to introduce our special speaker, Ms. Esther Egomamian. Ms. Esther Egomamian, she is the founder and the CEO of the WADI, WADHI, WADI, and she's also the UN CEDAW Vice Chair and a committee member from Nigeria. Esther, please.
Thank you very, very much, Ping. I'm so delighted and honored to be part of this webinar. I'm speaking from New York, so it's like you are directly connected to the CSW in New York. And really, I'm honored to be a guest of the Alliance for Women's Rights and Sustainable Development and all your partners. And of course, when you talk about CEDAW, implementing CEDAW, for those who do not know it, CEDAW is the universal framework that guides women's rights protection all around the world. And for us on the committee, we work with a lot of partners and stakeholders. And I just thought to clarify, take a few minutes for those who do not know it, that the treaty was adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1979. It has 16 operational articles that cover all spheres of life and gives an omnibus protection for women's rights in all fields and detailing obligations of state parties. The general recommendations that are issued by the committee that is set up by the UN to oversee the implementation of the convention are authoritative statements that clarify the meaning of the provisions of the convention itself regarding women's rights and the obligations of states. As of today, 39 general recommendations have been issued by the committee. We are currently working on the draft General Recommendation 40, which is on equal representation in all governance systems. It is available now on the website of the committee, and it is open for comments from women all around the world. It was released during this CSW. And we are also working on General Recommendation 41, which will be addressing stereotyping. And as at this moment, there are about 189 countries that are state party to the convention, and only the United States and Palau have signed but have not ratified the treaty, and making the convention the most ratified or acceded to convention. However, progress is slow. For those who do not know, to understand the convention, the purpose of the convention is to ensure non-discrimination. It prohibits discrimination based on gender. It defines what equality is and emphasizes rights and opportunities for women. And empowerment from the perspective of CEDAW promotes women's economic empowerment and participation in decision-making, in fact, in all spheres of life. You know, the convention, I said there are 16 operational articles, but in particular for the purpose of economic empowerment, I think there are about 4 articles or 5 that are most relevant. Articles 3, Article 7, Articles 13 and 14, which I have spelled out here. They have to do with commitments and requirements of state parties and stakeholders to implement and take decisions that affect women's empowerment in all fields of life. To ensure the full development and advancement of women. Article 7 talks about participation in public and political life. And Article 13 actually details the elimination of discrimination in all other areas of economic and social life, including access to credit, bank loans, access to property, land, investments, and every area of economic transaction. Article 14 also focuses on the rural woman and how economic empowerment should be given to the rural woman so that she can be part of the backbone of the economy. And experience has shown from the committee that rural women actually form the backbone of the economy and constitute over 60% of the informal economy in most countries. The CEDAW has had a lot of impact. We work through constructive dialogue. We meet with state parties like every 4 years. They're obligated to report. Many countries are in arrears, but we do witness high level of reporting, and we have a long backlog of countries that are lined up to report. We issue what you call list of issues, which are priority areas of concern for each country. And we also we receive shadow reports from CSOs. So like your Alliance for Women's Rights, we would expect that countries where you have presence would prepare shadow reports based on the government report and submit to the committee. We also have NGO briefing sessions in the wings of our dialogue with state parties, and these are held in Geneva. At the end of the dialogue, we issue recommendations to state parties in what we call the concluding observations. And in there, we detail priority areas that the state party should report in 2 years. I've talked about our GRs, which are the overall the established legal and human rights standards to guide both the duty bearers and the rights holders. And they provide the normative work that actually drives the work on gender equality, working in tandem with other normative frameworks. It's been instrumental in addressing wide range of issues: domestic violence, reproductive health rights, gender-based discrimination, discrimination in the workplace, access to finance, disaster risk reduction, political participation. And I put a few examples, but the truth is, if you go on the CEDAW website, you will see that a lot of progress and results have been achieved in almost all countries that are members of the state part, that are state parties to the convention. It's been instrumental in changing discriminatory practices on inheritance, harmful traditional practices, and it has also helped women to assert their claim for increased productivity, particularly promoting peace processes. And we have GR30 that sets the global standards for women's engagement in peace. Many countries, laws have been amended, and we have increased access to credit and financial services for women, also legal protection for women in many areas of life. An interesting thing that you need to know is after 40 years of the convention, during the 40th anniversary, we engaged with a wide range of stakeholders, state parties, and the outcome of that is what we call the CEDAW Knowledge Hub. It's a 3-step concept that uses reverse engineering technology to analyze, design and redesign and re-implement. The strategic objective is to provide a practical tool for peer-to-peer learning and exchange among all state parties and all stakeholders, working in collaboration with the human rights mechanism. And its specific objectives are to have new innovative working methods, continuous learning from everybody, we learn from each other, strengthening engagement with diverse actors, building on existing tools, and then contributing to strengthening the human rights treaty parties. Some of the lessons that we've learned, there are lots of lessons and opportunities in the gender landscape. First, in terms of gender responsive framework, we find that progress on gender responsive budgeting, gender procurement, and other normative frameworks have been very slow. In the area of governance, we find that patriarchy still continues to reflect women's underrepresentation. Only a few countries have achieved parity. Less than 25% of countries actually have more than 30% women in leadership. We find that although legislation and policies exist, a lot of them still reinforce gender barriers, including with regards to access to credit and finance and productive assets. And we have a monopoly of elections. That's what we have observed in many countries. In terms of the local women's machineries, many countries have, in response to the Nairobi Forward-Looking Strategy and the Beijing Platform for Action, have set up national machineries. But our observation is that they lack authority, they are often low in government hierarchy, and they lack inadequate governance instruments to drive accountability. They have no regulatory systems or mechanisms. Accountability is often very weak. They are not able to issue fines, levies, or licenses, and so they do not really have any authority to hold other stakeholders accountable. We also find that most national machineries and women's societies, NGOs, are inadequately resourced. They have inadequate human, technical, and financial capacity to deliver on the convention. But we find that there are still opportunities and challenges, both at the global, national, and local system. One of the things, particularly with relates to women's economic empowerment, is that we find that there's still a gender monopoly of the economic system. You find that capital markets are owned and led and shaped largely by patriarchy and have men principal leadership. We also find that procurement is largely, in fact, less than 3% of procurement in the entire world goes to women. We talk about the big ticket procurement, which is where economic power really comes from. Women are not there. And the whole concept of gender procurement, which has been around now for about 12 years, and I'm privileged to have been part of that initial process, it still has not taken root. In fact, at this year's W68, UN Women with the International Trade Center and a few stakeholders, including the Commonwealth, have launched what you call the Global Campaign for Gender Responsive Procurement. You find that the loans and credit systems still, disfavor women. Women do not have access to sufficient credit to be able to take on major investments or large-scale enterprises. And trade is also inhibitory. There are many barriers that impede women, gendered barriers to trade. The banking and finance system has many women, but women are not in the leadership or ownership of the banking and finance system. And like I said, the governance and leadership of most institutions is still largely masculine. And I find that a lot of opportunities are there to be able to strengthen women's engagement and their economic empowerment. In terms of the power of women, we find that often overlooked is women's consumer power, their indigenous knowledge and skills, their proficiency and productivity. They're not covered in the national accounting system, where goods and services produced by women are often relegated to the informal economy, and they're in the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And although they form the backbone of the economy, they are rarely included in the spending profile of countries. Women's unpaid work remains invisible. The care economy remains invisible. It's largely feminized, contributing to feminized poverty. It's not regulated, and there is need to develop that further. We find that there are new threats to women's economic empowerment, the digital economy, e-commerce, the AI algorithms. There's a lot of algorithm bias that rides on the existing bias in society. We find that robotics are also tending to be gendered in the way they are designed and operated. The metaverse is developing and it's reinventing discrimination. Peace and security all around the world, women pay the price for war and conflicts, and meanwhile, they're not in decision-making positions in determining war. And we find that the new international financial architecture could be a threat if it is not gendered. And so there are a few recommendations if we want to expand and deepen women's economic power. As we work on GR40, we're looking to actually have a global campaign on parity to restore humanity and to have global to local action backed by reforms, incentives, and sanctions. We also think that unlocking global solutions can only come if women are increased, if there's an increase in women in leadership and in economic structures and systems. We find that economic reforms need to be backed by incentives and sanctions. Otherwise, we'll still keep perpetuating the system we have. And the goal is to have paradigm shift, innovation, and technology-driven growth that is inclusive. Also, policy reforms that would accelerate macroeconomic development and reconfiguration of work, including the care economy. And some of our recommendations is that the care economy should be developed into a full-blown market and segmented and well-structured so that it is remunerated, and that budgets are allocated to women's issues so that they can bridge the historical gaps. Human capital development cannot be accelerated if there is no prioritized investment in women's education, healthcare, and capacity building, and also in digitization. In the legislative agenda, we need laws that will enable women to thrive economically and financially, and that starts from the parliaments. Monitoring and evaluation, the CEDAW committee continues to strengthen its monitoring and evaluation role. Our dialogues are open. We strengthen states. We use the CEDAW Knowledge Hub, work with Faith for Right People. We have actually piloted that with a few countries, and we're open to work with countries in the Asia region to be able to pilot how to integrate the Faith for Rights template of the OHCHR into CEDAW implementation. In conclusion, our collective commitment to implementing the convention exists, and it has huge potential to be able to accelerate sustainable development. Deepening collaboration among stakeholders, including the faith-based institutions, will actually help to utilize legal and policy frameworks that would evolve to foster women's leadership and economic participation. And we believe that integrating care work into the national accounting system will capitalize on the gains of the economy. Upholding CEDAW standards are really welcome, because the more we uphold CEDAW standards and adhere to the general recommendations, that's the only time we can guarantee women's rights, provide safeguards that will make sure that women are not left behind in line with the SDG principles. And we believe that together we can work together to dismantle poverty's grip and forge a path towards transformative gender equality and a sustainable future. I thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to engaging with you, and the committee remains open to all civil society and all state parties to advance gender equality around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Esther. Your representation is so comprehensive. You are expert, so you give us the introduction, impact, the strategy, objective, and some challenges and opportunities. I think people will be very interested in this very rich field. And thank you, Esther.
Thank you very much.
Next one will be Dr. Suchi Gower. Suchi Gower, because she and her daughter are sick, so Dr. Suchi, she excused from this session. Then we will jump to the Hendrika Okondo. Hendrika?
Yes,
Hendrika, are you there? Yes, I see you, Hendrika. Hendrika, she is the global advisor and the researcher at WREPA. And she also used to be in UNOCA, Gender Humanitarian Aid Consultant. I know Hendrika very experienced in the UN system and the UN's work. So today we are very pleased to have you here, Hendrika. And now the floor is yours, Hendrika.
Okay, thank you so much, Bing, and thank you, Esther. Your presentation is fantastic.
Thank you.
Very comprehensive. So yes, thank you, Bing, for that wonderful introduction. Can we go to the first slide?
Yes.
the second slide. I think the first slide was the title. So yeah. So I think Esther has told us a lot on CEDAW, so I won't talk much. I think Esther's presentation was very comprehensive. CEDAW is an international legal instrument that requires countries to eliminate discrimination against women and girls in all areas and promotes women and girls' equal rights. Yeah, so next slide. I just thought we could look at what gender is. So gender is a social construct of the masculine and feminine identities that determines not just the relationship between men and women, but also their entitlement within the household and the wider social economy. And again, Esther's presentation really gives us the meat of that discussion. And gender relations are the dimensions of social relations that create the difference in the positioning of men and women in social processes. So I am going to talk a lot about Kenya because the work I'm doing currently is based in Kenya. And to address the CEDAW recommendations, Kenya developed a national policy on gender and development, which spells out, their processes for addressing gender equality. Next slide. So in Kenya, the men have culturally specific privileges and have claim over females. They are entitled to women's lives, production, body, sexuality, and reproduction. The men are also culturally, because of their entitlement, they can restrict women's mobility. There's violence against women and harmful practices and women's reproductive health. And there's a paper by one of the gender commissions called Kasaji that actually details how this impacts on women's well-being. The other thing is that within the culture of Kenya, men are defined as the supporters of the family, the heads of the family, and women are expected to care for the home, the children, and the elderly persons. So, like we heard from Esther, that's invisible work that's not considered productive. So, the women are not paid for this work, but it determines their access to economic activities. Next slide. So what the government has done, because they've signed CEDAW and they have also ratified CEDAW and they report frequently to CEDAW. So what they've done is they have initiated legislative, administrative, and judicial measures for addressing the discrimination against women across the social, cultural, political, and economic spheres. Number one is the Marriage Act, which seeks to eliminate that social inequality between men and women. And that gives women some sort of legislative rights. It also has a constitution that allows women to own land. And that's a great improvement because, again, if we call back to Esther's presentation, most women are in the rural areas and they are the ones who do the farming. So this Land Registration Act has been significant in increasing women's rights to land. Next slide. So when we look at poverty and gender inequality in Kenya, although Kenya's economy is the largest in East and Central Africa, we find that at least 7.8 million people in Kenya live in extreme poverty, and the majority are women, and especially women in rural areas. And these women are faced with, again, I'm awed by Esther's presentation that really identified the issues that we see in Kenya. They don't have access to financial resources. They don't have time for productive activities because they are the ones doing the heavy care work of taking care of children, taking care of the elderly, and doing the household chores. And then there's patriarchal traditions and beliefs that violate their rights. So although the Constitution gives us rights, they are often taken away by the traditions and the beliefs. The next slide. So Kenya signed CEDAW in 1984 and has done all these legislative and policy and programmatic strategies, but it has been slow. The policies that Kenya have increases women access to credit and farm equipment. So there's a women fund that women can apply and get loans and access these farm equipment and other products. The challenge, I think, which we need to address is the credit is expensive. So and women always pay back. So that also creates a burden for them. The government has tried to expand access to digital technology and also the use of e-commerce. But again, for women, there's a challenge in that they don't have access to the devices. And also the government has a very good program that supports women's entrepreneurship and leadership in climate action. There's been massive progress in the education system because there's been free education at primary school. However, there's still gender disparities for secondary and tertiary education. If we go to the next slide. And some of the challenges were addressed through the Sexual Offences Act, which addresses the impact of gender-based violence and sexual violence. Before, women would be sanctioned and criminalized if they report and they don't have evidence. So the act, the Sexual Offences Act, removes that criminal sanction. The women are believed, the survivors are believed. But although the challenge again is always the evidence, and the judicial system is also very slow. Again, the act has enabled there to be non-discrimination and enabled women with disabilities to access resources and also access work. The challenge has been on traditional practices like FGM. So there's resistance from traditional leaders and communities practicing FGM, although there's an anti-FGM act. The challenge also on the Marriage Act, which has been named in the CEDAW report and in the general recommendation, is that Kenya recognizes polygamous marriages and allows the man to marry other wives without the first wife's consent. And that undermines also women's ability to claim their rights under the Marriage Act. Next slide. So in terms of that, we at REPA have been working with young women and training them on their rights and enabling them to claim some of those rights. We've also done leadership development and mentorship, and we have established girl clubs where we work on those issues of reproductive health rights and also the importance of education. And we've also worked at regional and global advocacy on women's rights. And we work with Rosaria Memorial Trust that's based in Zimbabwe. And we'll hear more about it from Michelle, but we've been collaborating with them. And as a result, I'm here in New York with the support of Rosaria Memorial Trust to share some of the activities that we are doing in Kenya in terms of making sure that the women understand the new policies, understand CEDAW, and understand how to claim and protect their own rights. So thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. And I hope you've learned a little bit about what we are doing in Kenya and what the Kenyan government has done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angelica. And we are very happy to listen a whole picture from Esther. But we heard from you about the CEDAW, poverty, and gender equality in Kenya. Thank you. You gave us a very good example, and let's learn each other. Thank you. Then next, we will move to Michelle Motugo. Hi, Michelle. Can you open your camera? Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Michelle,
Okay, let me try to open my camera. I'm not confident
oh,
about
okay.
my
You
lighting.
take it easy.
Um,
What do you want? Michelle, may I introduce you first? Uh, Michelle, I think you are a young woman, right? And she is the executive director and the interim at Rosario Memorial Trust. And she is also a human rights lawyer focusing on women's rights. Now, please, Michelle, the
okay, thank
floor
you
is
very
yours.
much. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be presenting on this panel and speaking about the CEDAW and how we can use it to end poverty and achieve gender equality, and also to represent young women and the people from Rewa where we are working and Rosario Memorial Trust. So before I start speaking on this, I just want to give a brief presentation on Rosario Memorial Trust. Unfortunately, as I communicated earlier, my laptop was giving me problems, so I could not put that in the slides. I just tried to put the information regarding what we are discussing, and I think I can share with you a more comprehensive presentation even afterwards for you to refer to. So Rosario Memorial Trust is an organization that is based in rural Zimbabwe in the global south, in Southern Africa. And we work with girls and young women to assist them, and also just women in general in rural communities, to assist them to achieve their potential, to unleash that potential, and to access rights like the right to education, the right to health, the right to information, accessing certain spaces. And we are working with women and girls at rural community level and also at national, regional, and global level. Like right now, we are in New York for CSW. We are speaking about the issues that are affecting women in the rural communities. So we also run an emergency shelter for victims of gender-based violence in Murewa, and we do this work to ensure that women are safe from different forms of gender-based violence. And we have women and girls that we are taking to school. We are promoting economic empowerment for these women. So that's just a brief overview of what we are doing. And as I'll be going through the presentation, I will also be speaking in relation to the work that we are doing and how we have been championing the CEDAW, as our country is one of the countries that are signatory. We ratified the CEDAW. And I'm also just standing on the information that was given by the previous speakers around the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and which is often referred to as an International Bill of Rights for Women, and a landmark agreement promoting gender equality and women's rights. And if we leverage the principles and provisions that are in the CEDAW, we can work together towards ending poverty and achieving gender equality through various means. So within my presentation, I'll be speaking about just a few of the various means we can work towards in terms of ending poverty. Can you please move to the next slide? So the first being that the CEDAW is a legal framework. I feel like since there are people who have spoken before me, most of the information that I'm going to be speaking about, people talked about that, but I'm still going to speak about it and in relation to the work that we are doing, because I believe this is a platform where we are also doing information sharing and just learning best practices from one another. So the CEDAW provides a comprehensive legal framework for promoting gender equality and combating discrimination against women. And through ratification and implementation, countries commit to adopting legislative measures that guarantee women's equal rights in various spheres of life, including education, employment, healthcare, and political participation. These legal protections can help create an enabling environment for women to access resources, opportunities, and services that can uplift them out of poverty. So for us in Zimbabwe, we have so many acts that are also coming from and referencing the CEDAW in the sense that they are meant to create empowerment for the women that are in Zimbabwe, and ensuring that they get equal access to economic resources. We have seen our country has, we now have a Zimbabwe Women's Bank that is specifically meant to allow women to borrow. So that means that when women are able to borrow money, to borrow funds, they can invest in themselves. They can create employment opportunities for themselves. They can grow more profits from the businesses that they'll be doing. Usually we see that there are barriers when it comes to women accessing funding, in the sense that sometimes they're being asked to give out collateral in the form of maybe title deeds, but it's not a reality for most women, especially the women in rural communities, women who are marginalized. We've got women who are in crisis situations, women who are on the move, women who are being affected by climate change. So for these women, at times, they do not have title deeds because they're not even in one place for so long. And some of them have not had access to educational opportunities that enable them to be able to have title deeds. But the Zimbabwean government, they have made it so that you can even borrow against livestock. So if you have goats, if you have, or rather if you previously farmed and you harvested maybe crops, you can even make that your collateral. So that means that it increases women's access to economic opportunities, in the sense that they can borrow. So for us as Rosario Memorial Trust, we have been promoting women's economic empowerment through operationalization of a technical vocational education training, which is a TVET. So for us, we are teaching them to do bag weaving, liquid soap making, petroleum jelly making. And the women that we're working with, we are identifying women who are at risk of gender-based violence, women who are at risk of getting into child marriages, which is a form of gender-based violence, women who have been survivors, who have been victims. These are the women that we are working with, because we understand the relation between poverty and gender-based violence. So we have been working with them to give them starter packs, and allowing them to access and to sell their goods. We have a computer lab that is functioning, that we have been using to ensure that they get information, they get access to the digital markets. So this is how we've been addressing this, making use of economic empowerment of women. And as I have said, the CEDAW recognizes the importance of economic empowerment, and it is a key strategy for advancing gender equality and reducing poverty. Can you please move to the next slide? Okay, the next slide is on education and training. The CEDAW also emphasizes the importance of education and training as essential tools for promoting gender equality and empowering women. By investing in girls' education, vocational training, and lifelong opportunities, countries can equip women with knowledge and skills they need to pursue better economic prospects, secure stable employment, and break the cycle of poverty. Ensuring equal access to quality education for girls and women can also help challenge gender stereotypes and promote a culture of gender equality. So, so regarding this, I think, I'm sorry, I think you moved to the next slide. All right. So regarding education and training, as I was saying before, we have invested in having a vocational training for women, and also in terms of lifelong learning opportunities, we ensure that our girls have access to different kinds of knowledge. Within Rosario Memorial Trust, we have been doing what is called the Nanga. So the Nanga is a safe space for girls. It is a cultural innovation that we used, which is relatable to the girls that we work with who are in rural communities. We acknowledge the impact that culture has on girls and women. And also we also do not want to have young people not being in touch with their culture. So we try to push the positive cultural aspects so that we provide learning opportunities for the girls. And sometimes it's also just promoting those indigenous knowledge systems that existed before. So within the Nanga, we promote movement building of girls, of having them learn age-appropriate information on SRHR. As the previous speaker, Mama Hendrika, was speaking, she spoke about the work that we have even done together. We work to promote girls' movement building to allow them to access information that they would not have otherwise accessed only in within the formal education system. And we do out of school Nangas, in school Nangas, and at times when you get to certain convenings like within CSW, we curate the Nanga and we make it an intergenerational space where young people are learning from the leaders who are already in place. And this is done to ensure that young people still have access to information and they're using it so that they are also not discriminated as they get into certain spaces. As we move to health and well-being, the CEDAW recognizes women's right to health as a fundamental human right. By prioritizing women's health and well-being, countries can address the underlying factors that contribute to poverty and gender inequality. Ensuring access to comprehensive healthcare services, including sexual and reproductive health services, maternal care, and mental health support, can improve women's overall well-being, productivity, and quality of life. And by promoting women's health and rights, countries can create a more inclusive and equitable society. So in terms of this, it's also just highlighting the importance of ensuring that women have access to quality healthcare, because that means that even the quality of life that they live, it becomes better. The CEDAW recognizes women's right to health, and it's not the only international instrument that recognizes this. We have the International Bill of Rights. We have the Universal Declaration for Human Rights. It also speaks about the right to health. It's an absolute right that should not be limited at any given point. And the CEDAW recognizes this, and as we are working as well, most countries are also just working to promote the right to health for women and for girls. So also at Rosaria Memorial Trust, we are implementing, we also work to ensure that women have access to even just information on sexual and reproductive health rights, and they have access to quality services. And this is something, because when it comes to health, it's a gender issue and it's a public health issue that needs to be addressed to ensure that women can also participate in all aspects of life fully. And then we move on to the next slide, which is on political participation and decision-making. The CEDAW underscores the importance of women's participation in decision-making processes at all levels of society. By promoting women's political participation, representation, and leadership, we can ensure that women's voices are heard, their interests are represented, and their rights are protected. Empowering women to engage in politics, in advocacy, and in policymaking spaces can lead to more gender-responsive policies, laws, and programs that address the root causes of poverty and promote gender equality. Women are decision makers, not only when they're outside, even at household level. Women are the ones who are deciding what do we eat, how does the house look like, when should we do what. So it is always fascinating to see that at household level, people let the women lead. They let them make most of the decisions within the household. But then when we go to public spaces, people then start saying women are incapable of leading. But then there are people who are very vital in our economy, and they are the people who are making most of the decisions in different aspects of our lives. So it is very important to promote political participation and decision-making of women, especially when it comes to issues that affect women. We have seen in so many instances, people trying to make decisions for women, people trying to speak for the rights of women, people trying to speak on the bodies of women, which is a form of discrimination on its own, because it also just translates to people thinking that women do not have the capacity to make decisions on their own. So it is very important to ensure that women are assisted so that they can participate in political spaces. And in most countries, research has shown that sometimes the barriers come due to the fact that the time that is needed, the dedication that is needed, the time allocation needed for women to participate fully in political spaces is not practical, because they still have a job to do when they get back home. So there is need to address that to ensure that women are also able to participate. In certain countries, like in my country, at times the fees that are charged for someone to run for office, they're very high, that not so many women can afford those amount of those amounts for them to be able to participate within political making spaces. And it goes for advocacy and also for policy making spaces. Sometimes when it comes to advocacy, there's a lot that is required. There's a lot of travel. There's a lot of time and dedication that is needed. And most women do not have that. So it is important to uphold what the CEDAW says around underscoring the importance of women's political participation, as they are people who are participating in different aspects of life. So it should be recommended that they are also facilitated for in terms of getting to represent themselves within political spaces. We've seen other countries who have done women's quotas, where they say that within our parliament, there's a quota that has to be reached for representation within women. And there are so many different schools of thought around that. Some people say that it's good because it means that there's recognition of the need to have women within the parliament or the Senate. But others also say that we do not need a quota as women. We can occupy that space on our own. So I think at the end of the day, it's still the same. People just want the same result, which is women who are empowered to engage in politics, in advocacy, and in policy-making spaces. Can we move to the next slide? So yes, in conclusion, the CEDAW provides a powerful framework for promoting gender equality, ending poverty, and advancing women's rights globally. By leveraging on the principles and provisions of the CEDAW, countries can adopt comprehensive strategies that address the structural barriers and systematic inequalities that perpetuate poverty and gender discrimination. Through concerted efforts to promote women's economic empowerment, education, health, political participation, and legal protection, we can create a more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable society where women can thrive and contribute to positive change. So I think this also goes to the reason why we're all here during this specific time, which is the Commission on the Status of Women, where we are interrogating where countries are regarding promoting gender equality. And I think it is very important to discuss the role that the CEDAW plays in terms of providing a framework for promoting gender equality. And also, I think as going on forth, it is good to also just continue engaging with the committee for the CEDAW that continues to monitor issues regarding elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. And as Rosario Memorial Trust, through the work that we've been doing with different partners, including REPA, this is also something that is on our radar. We are working to see that women are not discriminated. Women continue to occupy spaces. Women continue to speak out and to hold strategic offices so that they can represent even those ones who have not been able to represent themselves. Thank you. I think this is the end of my presentation. Thank you, and over to you, Ping Li.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much for your sharing. You talked about how do you use the CEDAW in your Rosario Memorial Trust to coach and train the young women and girls. I think it's very important. And you also mentioned about the political participation and decision making. So now we try to move to the next speaker, And she is working on this field, the political field, and she's a councilwoman. The next one will be Mrs. Zhang Shuofen, Ms. Zhang Shuofen, and Zhang Shuofang. And Councilwoman will share with us the CEDAW as well. And here I would like to mention the participants. If you have any questions, please just write down on the chat or after our presentations, and you can wave your hands and we will see that. Thank you. And Councilwoman, Ms.
Hello,
Zhang,
everyone.
please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zhang Shuofang. I'm the City Councilwoman of Taoyuan City, and I'm very honored to be invited to this council. As my presentation, you can see that we were taking Taoyuan City's government as an example to talk about how to be women's supporting, and we will be more focusing on the measure of supporting women's employment. And as we can find out from the national data, that 10% of the women globally are trapped in a cycle of like extreme poverty. 342 million of women will still be living in extreme poverty by 2030. I think we should do something that in action. Women's poverty is fueled by discrimination in the world of work. Why is that? Because the limited access to the resource and the financial access, and also the lower education with the large share of the unpaid care and the domestic work. And today we will talk about the profile of the woman in Taoyuan. Since I'm the city councilor in Taoyuan, I'll be more focusing on this part. And the female profile of Taoyuan is women's labor participant rate has been declining year by year since the age of 30 to 34. Labor and social participants are really lower among the women aged between 25 and 44. A higher proportion of women with disability have not used and are also unaware of the resource they needed for marriage and childbirth and fertility counseling. And today, the issues of the concern will be on the economic and employment, and that will be the part we are focusing today at this topic. And there's two parts of it. One part is the involving women's service, and the other part is women's service to be developed. And for the involving women's service is social participation and support for middle-aged and elderly women. And the second, support and economic training programs for women. And third, advocacy and the promotion of women's rights. And fourth, service for the women and the disabilities at the different stage of life. And the women's service to be developed is the first part is the social participant survey for young women. The second part is the inventory, consolidations, and promotion of female landmarks. And next slide, please. Okay. There will be four principles of gender equality policy that we are focusing in Taoyuan County government. The first one is the gender friendly. The second one is protecting motherhood. And the third one is cultivating female power. And the fourth is a gender equality. The next slides. And the Gender Equality Office will be more focusing on the employment, economic, and welfare sections. And the rest that we can see from our slides that there's a bureau that is just happens to start in Taoyuan City this year, like January 1st. It's very, very fresh. They start from the beginning, and it's like the never happened before. Is the first bureau of Taoyuan government. It's called the Women Gender Equality Department that right now is happening in Taoyuan City. And next slide, please. And why is the reason that we need to do this? Because we can see from the data that supporting women to return to workplace after the marriage and the childbirth. The orange slide is the female slide, and the green one is the male. So we can see that each year, the female is the numbers of their come back to workplace after marriage and childbirth is declining each year. So it leads that to the woman that they have lower economic and unstable jobs and unconcerned future, and that will affect the whole family as well. Next slide, please. And supporting women to return to the workplace after the marriage and childbirth, we can see from different issues. One of it is employment difficulties. Women's labor participation rate has been declining year by year since the age of 30 to 34 due to marriage and childbirth. And childcare and family care are still primarily borne by women in Asia country mostly. Continuously supplementations of resource for caring for children under 12 years old. That's what we are trying to develop. And the second one is the measurement for supporting employment. In Taoyuan City, that we are trying to do is to expanding public child care facilities and providing child care subsidies. And there are 45 public child care facilities has been established in Taoyuan City, and there are 9 more expected to be established in the future. And care for the woman who will return to work after childcare leave. So they are trying to do is they do the phone-based care for women who return to work. They will call them up and try to see if they have any problem that we can solve for them. And the third one is the encouraging enterprise to establish a friendly workplace environment, so that we have increasing rate of like a breastfeeding room installation rate like 95.21%, and child care facility installation rate is 95%, which is pretty much very high right now in Taiwan. Like just like earlier we have the guest speaker was saying that like we have female governor or female politician that really help to push some policy around the city or the county, would be more focusing on the woman's need. Next slide, please. And now we're talking about rewarding public institutions to implement childcare measures. So we are trying to push these institutions or the companies to do more about the childcare. So we can do professional counseling teams, assistant company on site. So expert counseling teams guide companies in setting up the breastfeeding rooms and the formulating childcare measures. And the second is the benchmark learning. So they're trying to do like 3 seminars with 224 participants and the friendly workplace forum. 2 forums were held to comment the provisions of childcare facility by public institutions. And fourth, subsidies and incentives for companies to provide childcare service. There are 20 public institutions has been awarded. Next slide, please. And promote involvement for women in disadvantaged situation. We know that there's a lot of disadvantaged situation happens in women's world. And the employment difficulty is that employment challenging for middle-aged and elderly women. So they have limited work competitiveness and the physical decline and the insufficient employment information, and the lower labor participation rate and the higher employment rate among the women with a disability. Also, language, cultural education, and face barriers for new female immigrants. So we're going to talk about new female immigrants later in my presentation, because now today we have a large number of female immigrants in Taoyuan City right now. So we were talking about the difficulties of unemployment. We also talk about the difficult and barrier in the new female immigrants also in my presentation too. Next slide, please. Supporting measures of employment of middle-aged and elderly women. What we can do is we try to do the training center of the vocational skills. So 11 women have completed the beverage preparation and baking training and work flexibility to increase their income. And the second specialized class for women's employment training certificate. So nowadays they have 2 sections of a specialized training with 58 participants. And third, encourage women to obtain professional driving lessons and issues additional rewards. Why is driving license? People might be curious about why driving license, because in Taoyuan City right now we are so lack of labor about drivers. So right now the government trying to encourage women to have this job, so that they have 100 incentives will be offered in 2024 to encourage women to engage in the professional driving sectors. Next slide, please. And before I was talking about the female immigrants, we also believe that the total number of new immigrants in Taoyuan City is 67,130 people, the second large new immigrant population in the country, second only to New Taipei City. The majority of them are from mainland China, like 61%, and then the rest of them is from Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and Philippines. As we can see from the chart, from mainland China is 38,841 people, and from Hong Kong and Macau is nearly 2,152 people. This is most of them are female, like 90% of them are mostly female. Next slide, please. And as the Taoyuan government trying to do a lot towards new immigrants, so they are trying to do the empowerment centers. They have a department so that will be training for their courses, and they have traineeship. They have entrepreneur consolations, and their goal is trying to assist new residents to develop their primary skills and secondary expertise, improve them to the new residents' empowerment and entrepreneur comprehensiveness. Next slide, please. And this is the bus driving training program that you can tell from the chart that once you get trained, you get a job. And the training period is 5 months, which is not very long, but the basic salary is from the US dollar is kind of like $850 per month. It's quite basic, but once you get training allowance, so you get more and more money once you do complete the training program. And so they also have milestone bonus to add it. So for this much dollar, it would be like so it'd be like $2,500 approximately. So each in total. So this is like it start from the basic, but once you start from the milestone, you finish with the milestone each by each, and then you will get more and more money and try to get you like a decent and stable job. Next slide, please. Okay. And by saying that supporting measure of employment of female immigrants is providing integrated entrepreneur service and consolation, so that they are offering various courses regarding information, network marketing, food and beverage work, life service, living stream skills, entrepreneur experience sharing, and oversee procurement and agency, 11 employment service with 175 participants. Collaborate with the tourism and lodging industry to train skills and matching job. Collaborate with the tourism bureau and lodging industry to train new residents to obtain certifications and facilities employment. That's what we are trying to do right now in Taoyuan City. And I believe that will be the more slides here. Next one. Okay. And how about the woman with disabilities? Vocationally reconstruction service and tailored employment plan. There are 323 women participants and 107 were employed. Organize vocational training class, encourage trainees to obtain license. 11 specialized class with 76 participants. Insurance of rewards for technical qualification to increase employment comprehensiveness. 16 women will receive the rewards. The next slide, please. And that will be the substantial city featuring global connection by the Taoyuan County. And I also want to answer some questions of at the end of my slide that specific measures are needed to safeguard women's economic empowerment and job security opportunities. And what I did is after the election, my office providing free services on the law advice, addressing gender-based violence and psychological therapies advice towards after birth women and also teenagers after my elections, so that we can lower down the cost of the underprivileged women who are seeking for the professional law advice, and also like mentally struggling people. So I think that's that we are doing the most right now. Like we provide this free service every day from Monday to Friday. And I think the governments also have to take strong actions as we are supervising them as city woman counselor to promote inclusive growth and the raising gender inequality in government, and also to reduce women's poverty by raising more decent work opportunity and to reduce the persistent gender inequalities. And that will be my presentation. Thank you for listening. I'm the City Councilor of Taoyuan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Zhang. You gave us an image of the Taoyuan City, and you are tell about the women and children, particularly for the disadvantaged women. Thank you. And then the one is Associate Professor of National Taipei University Department of Social Work. Professor Zhang, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Lee. It's my time, and thank you to give me this opportunity. It's my honor to present this report, which implement the CEDAW in Taoyuan City. It's a very good case, especially I'd like to acknowledge all the non-NPO organizations and people involved in this project, especially for Director Du Zirong and Zhang Xinzi, Section Chair, we cooperate to finish and present this paper. Okay, shall I? Okay. All right. And in Taoyuan, we call this program is a pleasing kitchen. It means that you eat and learning and would be very pleasure to enjoy it. So as before we talk about this project, we think about a profile of the women in Taoyuan. Taoyuan is the youngest city among the 6 municipalities, and also is very good and very young, but the low social participation in Taiwan. Also for the women in 40 to 44, labor force participation growth rate lower than 1. And the Aboriginal population is the second highest in Taiwan. So how far the situation in Taoyuan about the older women, the proportion is increasing, and the new immigrant population is the fourth highest in Taiwan. The disabled women is increasing now. Under this profile, how we can do and do something for Taoyuan. So the government to create this program to help women maybe in the unemployed or maybe face the dilemma for caring and family issues. So we create a new economic model that meets the needs of women. So the key issues is women who are unable to work full-time due to the family care. We provide welfare consultation, companionship support, and skill training, and some kinds of resources that support them. So have a quite a good key values relate to SDGs, like goal 1, goal 2, goal 4, and goal 5, and goal 8. And also the key goals for this program is support women to balance family and financial needs. Also, the second is self-achievement and career development. So that's why we have a lot of coaching and consulting in this program. Also combine the practice to create a new economic model. That it means this model created, and maybe we can learn and to copy to another program, or other city, other country can learn from Taoyuan. The key target is women who are unable to work full-time due to caring, and women who are employed for a second time. Okay, so what we input for this program, we provide individualized support service and resources reference in balanced family and economics. When they are training, they are learning. Also, we combine skill trainings and practices to improve income, to make their economic situation getting better. So we have 3 steps. One is individualized support service, like subsidize their lives. And also we individualize the service is one-to-one consult through social workers and through professions. Also, we have a welfare consultations to know how their families needs. Also, we do support networks like that maybe help each other to know how far they can develop their career. The second step is also we balance the family and economies. They learn the professional skills and they have a training. They also get some economic support. They have a personal brand coachings and increase their income. The third is a women's empowerment demonstration area. They are not only learning, they also to have a place to represent how far they have been learned, and they have customers to give them feedbacks to increase their skills. And also this place inclusive community for disadvantaged women. how many partnerships involved? We have a public sectors in Taoyuan City, especially the Department of Women and Children Development. They plan and coordinate. They monitor the service progress. They integrate the resources. It's very important to make this program success. Also, we have a social enterprises. We implement the project. We have more women empowerment. We counseling. We help them to do the field management. Also, we have a feedback from NPO, long-term to support this program, and private sectors to do the marketing, to design, to do the consultation, that this program not only cooperate with the government, also we help and support from the market. What is the output for this program? We have three. One is the individualized support service. The output is empowerment to make skilled, very mature, and also have individual training, have a resources network, like employment matching, go to the labor market, have a labor insurance, also have supervision, like I mentioned above, like service plan, evaluation, and service models. Also, we do the women exchange meeting. They have a lots of meetings, also we have 111 participants and 9 times exchange meetings to say their experience, to share how they have been done. So the outcome is the build a case management model is very important for the future. Also, this program creates service model diagram. Maybe other city, other program want to learn from this. Also, the second is the balanced family and economy. As I mentioned, for those vulnerable women, maybe it's not easy to do a full-time job. How far they can support themselves and families. So we do some kinds of efforts and have a lot of outputs. They learn the professional skill trainings. We got 51 courses and 917 participants and 42 hours temporary child care. Also, we have a coaching, like I mentioned, have a lot 200 more hours of coaching and 6 groups site and 5 groups is a personal brand. Also, the outcome is the construct model and represent to the all, like today, to represent how far we have been done. The third is women's empowerment demonstration areas. The output is have a Tao, we call in Chinese is a Tao Jiemei, and also have a flexible work and concern women's needs, and demonstration field service include daily meals, exhibition, community activities, and market activities. What is the outcome? Also, they not learn the skill. They go to the market. They hire 18 women hired and provides 5,800 more hours of work opportunities for those women to involve. And also the average income is nearly 10,000 NT dollars, and lots of qualitative response as mentioned in here. So the important is what's the impact? The impact, the first is help vulnerable women to implement the CEDAW, like we mentioned, like we do the individualized training and support services and integrate of welfare resources and balance family and economic independent. And also the second is the fixed women's needs. It's not only this program do, but also what is the women's needs is important for this program. So create a new economic model that meets the needs of women. The third and the last one is the demonstration area, repeat again, to support women to learn and create together. You know, the social network and support each other is very important to build an inclusive community for disadvantaged people. It's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zhang. Thank you very much. Your presentation is very interesting. And it's lots of fun there. I hope someday people will go to your kitchen to see what's happening there. Okay, thank you very much. Now, because we don't have a 5 minutes, so maybe we can have 2 questions from the floor. Anyone? Anyone with a question? Yes, Astrid? Yes,
Thank you very much, Pink. And not so much as a question, I would actually just like to commend the city councillor and the professor that spoke, Professor Chin Feng Yang.
Yes.
That you actually, I'm not sure, I didn't talk about the CEDAW Cities initiative. That's an initiative to take CEDAW to cities. And you actually have demonstrated that it is possible to have CEDAW integrated into a local government, into a city. And the councillor, if you're still in New York, actually tomorrow, Monday, at the Church Center, we will be having a workshop on the CEDAW cities. And we're trying to take that to other cities because in the US, there are 64 cities that have been able to integrate CEDAW into their local legislation, into the cities and into the councils. And it will be a real pleasure to have you there because on Friday, there was an award for CEDAW cities. And it will be my pleasure to connect you to the group, the global group, and to also maybe comment on an alliance with you. A number of countries and cities, including from my own country, have indicated interest to visit and to understudy those cities. And I think you do have a good model. We've worked with them. They were with us in Geneva in February. And we are wanting to build that into a model. And right now, because we're trying to develop the care economy into a market, I think we can work with you and partners to see how that market can be segmented because you've started it. I really want to commend you, and I hope that I will take this back to the committee, but I hope we see tomorrow. The event is at 10:30 in the morning on the 2nd floor at the Church Center, 777 Church Plaza. And I don't have your contact, but I'm sure Pink can share it. We can meet there and meet with Dr. Sun Young. Thank you very much. I commend the effort. And you're already doing some of the things that we advocate, but I think we can work with you to learn lessons and to share with other countries.
Sure, no problem. Thank you so much.
My only question is, did you have to have a particular legal reform? Was there need for any special law? Did you have legal reform? Did you have any special service that social reform that enabled you to be able to do those things so that others can learn from it?
You mean which kind of training or?
No, I said, did you have any legal reform? Did you have to have some special legislation to enable you to provide the services that you do?
I think because most of the job are participant with the government.
Okay.
So actually, yeah, they already performed the best outcome, and they are still doing it because as I was just saying that They are just the Bureau of the Women and Children Development Bureau. It's just started this year. So I
Okay.
kind of speak up for them and trying to push them and supervise them to do better and better in the future.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Esther? Yeah,
Yes.
Esther. I think Councilwoman Zhang, she is the first time in New York to participate in the CSW. I think
Wow.
we got lots of the things and very excited in the women's issue. And we trust her will have lots of ideas, new ideas. She wants to have some different. We believe it will have the new things to bring back to
Yeah.
Taoyuan City.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you,
I would
Esther.
be eager to meet with you and talk about gender and procurement, how you can integrate procurement into what you do, and that would make a world of difference.
Thank you so much, Esther. And
You're welcome.
we saw lots of the questions from the floor. Julie Wilson.
Yes. And my question is, I heard that the United States has signed the CEDAW agreement, but it has not been ratified. What can be done on the local level to encourage ratification? I'm in the United States and I live in the state of California.
Oh, thank you, Julia. I think Esther, could you answer this?
Yes, thank you very much. I just was talking about the CEDAW for Cities Alliance. It's actually an alliance in the US that has taken CEDAW to the local level in lieu of the ratification at the national level. I hear a lot of work has started. I can connect you with the coalition for the CEDAW cities. They've been able to get 64 cities in the US to have ordinances on CEDAW. And I think they're right now working at the national level. So it would be good if you could join hands with them, emulate, and maybe bring on a few more cities and form that coalition. There's nothing really that's stopping the US, except that as a federal, I don't know. In my country, Nigeria, even when laws are passed at national level, like our Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, it has to be ratified by 2/3 of the state for it to have national effect. So you would really need to work with some legal people to understand the pathways that are open in the US, because they're usually about multiple pathways to be able to get it and get the government to ratify. But a lot of organizing is needed and a lot of advocacy on the part of women's groups.
Thank you. If you could, maybe somebody could put that information in the chat, the alliance or something, so that I have that information, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I will. I'll put it. I'll just put the name of the lead and her contact details.
Thank you.
Please,
You're welcome.
Esther. Thank you for your very useful information. And here we will have Caroline.
Yes. Yes, Ping.
Caroline, please.
I want to commend the speakers on great presentations. It just renews. We've been working on it for like 20 years. Haven't gotten there yet, but I'm encouraged that it's still a possibility. But my question was to the speaker who had been working with the immigrants. And I'm curious as to where the immigrants were coming from that they were working with.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
I think Councilwoman Zhang, you in your presentation you mentioned about the white
Female immigrants.
Yeah, would you like to answer, give us some feedback to Caroline?
Okay, from my presentation, I talked about the female immigrants. 80% of the immigrants are coming from China, mainland China, and the rest are from Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Is that answering your questions?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, so John. And then we still have a question in our chat from Grace Young Kim. I think she, I know her, a young woman and she is from Korea. I thank you so much to all the speakers for your presentation. It was very fascinating to hear about the current work and implementation of CEDAW from another side of the world, from where I am. Every presentation was very interesting for me, but I had one question to Michelle Mutogo. Mutogo, are you here? Mutogo? You are not here, but we would like to share the questions about Grace said you have mentioned about Naga for safe spaces for women and girls. I think that is great that you have those spaces where women and girls can get age appropriate information on their rights for their empowerment. My question is that how do women and girls in the region get information about this wonderful NAGA? And what means do you use to reach out to the women and the girls in the rural areas to promote NAGA and recruit them to this place? Anyone can answer for Michelle? No. I think great. We will deliver your question to Michelle and try to ask her answer you, giving some writing. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I think the time is run out, and in the closing, I want to thank all the speakers and collectively a very informative and stimulating session. Thank you very much. In expressing this appreciation, I'm confident speak for the audience as well. Thank you everyone for
Thank
your
you,
full
Fing. Thank you.
participation and big contribution. Thank you everyone. And before I close this session, may we take 10 seconds to have a group picture? Group picture. We can have a picture together. Please open your camera, okay? Yeah. Oh, I see your face. Everyone is so beautiful. Julie? Okay, let's try. 1, 2, 3, and smile. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Ping,
Ping.
I'd just like to make a request, Ping,
Yes.
that if you send me an email, I will connect you to Dr. Sun Yung and the Cities Alliance group in the US. I have put her details there, but if you send an email, I can make a formal introduction. And I look forward to seeing Ms. Chang tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. at the church center. See you tomorrow.
No
We
problem.
will
Good to
this
see
morning.
you.
We will be
Okay,
there.
great.
We will be
Be
there.
there.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you for your information. I think if you are interested in this matters, these issues, we can exchange our message or information skill. Okay.
Yes, please
everyone.
share my number. Please share my number with Miss Chang so we can
Alright.
communicate, on WhatsApp before the meeting so that we can identify ourselves.
Okay.
Because it will be packed. Yeah.
I will miss you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Have a
Esther?
lovely rest of the day and
Thank
happy
you
night
very
rest to everybody on this side of
Esther,
the coast. Yeah.
I got one question from the floor.
Yeah.
They said in Taiwan, the women groups, they work very hard on the CEDAW.
Yes.
And you have been in Taiwan, you saw that.
Yes. Yes, I have faith.
And in your presentation, you mentioned about the global campaign, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So for a movement, it's not be alone, work alone. We cannot just one country to do this. And can you give us some advice? What can we do? What should we do? As a member, we are not a UN member.
I think there are about 2 or 3 campaigns now that have been recently launched. I told you that the GR41, the GR40 has been posted on the CEDAW website. I think it's a good opportunity to make comments, go to the website, send in your comments and be part of that so that you can also take that GR and domesticate it and launch it in Taiwan. I will be more than willing to work with you on that for the launch. And then the other is, I told you that the Gender and Procurement Global Campaign was launched last Monday here in New York. I can make that information available. I think Taiwan should join so that your country can be one of those because you started it. And the third is there's the Global Care Economy Campaign. I spoke at that on Friday. It's work between UN Women, CEDAW, and a number of global partners, including the ILO. I think that's a place where you can actually jump on the campaign and utilize it locally. And of course, I'll be more than willing to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther. You promised us already. And you will not leave us alone, right?
No, 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 I will not. I will not.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, everyone here. Okay, say goodbye to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good night rest and a good day in
good
Taiwan.
day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.